So today I have a pleasure of speaking with Sophie Rey. Hello, Sophie.
Hello, hi Aneta.
Hello. Lovely to speak with you again. We did have another podcast episode where we had a conversation about your work. But today I wanted to find out from you about the training that you completed called Trauma-Informed Somatic Teacher and Coach for Women. Um, that's the big training that we run under our institute, 160 hours. And you were part of the initial beta cohort. So you took quite a big risk to sign up. And so I wanted to start with very simply, why did you sign up for this training? What kind of prompted it?
Well, firstly, it didn't feel like a big risk, uh,
Mm.
even though it was a beta. I guess I just trust you,
I-
which is nice. So that's kind of, one of the reasons why I signed up because we'd already been working together, and I I just really like the way that you work and, you know, your whole experience of what you've done, what you've been through, running your own business. So I kind of felt safe to join that course, even though it hadn't been run before. Um, and yeah, there are a few reasons why I signed up. And the initially I wanted to do the 80-hour trauma-informed yoga teacher training
Mhm.
because I wanted to add on that trauma-informed, trauma-sensitive work because I know how important it is. And and then you were like, oh, I've got this new course. I
Mm.
think because we'd already been working together with my business coaching, and I'd started using somatic practices to support myself and running my own business. I was recovering from a little bit of burnout and stress from the pandemic as well, and it just made such a huge impact on me and the way that I ran my business, the way that I changed how I was taking care of myself and how I was showing up for myself, and then how I was showing up for others and my clients. Um, so I wanted to make sure that I was trauma informed, and I wanted to learn about the use of language and the different types of trauma and how this might impact our clients. So it's really important for me that I have those skills and that knowledge
Yeah.
because we don't know what's going on with people. The pandemic had such a huge impact on people's nervous systems, and that's just one example. There's so much happening in the world and in people's lives, and
Mm.
it's just when you work in this field of work, you have to know how to support someone and how to, you know what impact they might have,
Yeah, I really hear that. It's really interesting. I just been in Poland and I've just been visiting and everything, things haven't stopped. I mean, we just celebrated. There was an anniversary of the pandemic. We coming to an anniversary here in UK of going into the lockdown at the beginning of April. And that was 4 years. And it might seem like a long time ago, but, there is a lot information and new data coming through of the impact of the pandemic and the lockdowns on younger children, on teenagers, on adults, on the way that we work, on the mental health crisis. There's so much happening. And I completely agree with you that those skills are not something that, oh, had to learn them then because it was the pandemic and its impact. It's this kind of ongoing, the wars around us, our worries, our anxieties, the information that, the AI that is coming out. Even an AI is apparently racist, has got a racist bias. So there is ongoing stuff, ongoing challenges on all of us. And those skills are definitely not something that is nice to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really important. And it's that understanding that yoga has a deeper impact on people. And that can be really uncomfortable for people. And if that comes up in your class, how are you going to handle that? What are you going to
Yeah.
Are you going to follow up with that person or know what to do if that person feels their feelings?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so
Are you gonna freeze? I don't know what to do, or pretend it's not happening, or shut them down and run off and
yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, it's important that all yoga teachers understand that it is a deeper practice. So
But it's very interesting because the other part of your kind of work is the art. And I know that you run a lot of workshops that bring together yoga and maybe mindfulness and now somatics and, and art. And art can bring up lots of emotions for people and a lot of different parts, like the imposter and, perfectionist. And there can be a lot of real charged and often uncomfortable emotions when it comes down to art and what we believe ourselves be able to do. I wonder whether that whether you use those skills in those situations as well.
oh yeah, definitely. Now that I know more about it and I understand the inner parts, the family systems and what might be coming up for people, it has made it so much easier for me to give suggestions and try and create that more open, more curious, safer space for people to play. And that's always what I've wanted my art workshops to be about, that playfulness and that creative inner child, exploring that. But the training has just made me think about how that can be uncomfortable for people as well, the inner child. And a few people have said to me, I find it really hard to access my inner child. But I give options for people so that it's not like, right, we're gonna think about our inner child, because I know that can impact people and be really like, get me
Yeah.
out of here. So I give an alternative option for people. So that's been really useful.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think it has changed the way that I run my workshops, because I didn't want it to be copy me. I'm going to paint this, you're going to follow me. That's not
Yeah.
the point of it. The point of it is the process and the playfulness and the how can you access that part of you, that innate creativity within you that's buried underneath all of that. I can't, or I was told I was rubbish, or
I'm
whatever.
not good enough.
Not
I'm
good
just,
enough. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I have that as well. So it's helped me understand where I'm coming from and why I think those things. But luckily for me, I kept making art. even when I even when my inner critic is like, that's not very good.
Mm.
Yeah. But I know you've got to there's a hump. You've got to get over the hump.
Yeah. And so you're already mentioning now how the training impacted and changed how you work. What else? What other changes that you noticed?
More more collaboration, more working from where the client is. So as a yoga teacher, I think I've always, I create sequences and plans, and I have themes to kind of, have a container for the practices. But actually, what I love about this training and what I love about being a coach, which is never something that I thought I would be, it's not the reason that I signed up. I wasn't like, right, I'm going to be a coach. That's just a happy accident, really. Is that I lead with the client tells me what they need and what they want. And if they don't know, we explore things. And that's where, obviously when you're first starting to work with someone, they might not have a clue. So it's like unpicking those things and trying to figure out what is going to work. But I just love that collaborative aspect of it, and that they have choice. I think that has changed the way that I teach yoga as well. But obviously it's a different thing, because when you're leading a class of people and they want yoga, and to move in a yoga asana way, you kind of have to do that. But I love bringing in somatic practices and getting people to be a little bit more intuitive, and it really solidified the fact that I was teaching in a somatic way and I just didn't know it. I think that is the case for a lot of teachers, a lot of yoga teachers, and people that come to my classes. They say, oh, I didn't realize that I was already practicing in a somatic way, because it's not explained.
Yes, there are so many different, I mean, a lot of people use the word somatic or embodied and actually not really knowing what exactly it means. And that difference in practices like yoga, the difference between somatic and embodied. Like all yoga is somatic because it's body focused, but actually that's not the same as doing somatic practices, for example, for nervous system regulation or for experiencing more embodiment. And it's a natural way, isn't it? It's like that's what babies do. You do not have to teach babies to do some poses. They just move from within and being kind of explorative, bringing the big toe into their mouth or stretching or rolling over and crawling. And as adults, we've been conditioned out of this natural movement, and yoga, unfortunately, sometimes can contribute to it because we become very obsessed about alignment and about how it should look and holding the poses really tight, and rather than bringing more of that natural, intuitive movement from within, the movement that releases that chronic tension and chronic patterns of holding, stress holding within the body.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
isn't that amazing? I mean, I don't know if that was your experience, but it's like people suddenly feel really happy about like, oh God, that is so easy, and oh God, that feels good, and that kind of element of pressure is taking away, and it's like there is a sense of relief that comes from being allowed to move in much more natural way.
Yeah, and that is definitely how I teach now. So that's something that has changed. I was quite not rigid with alignment, because I had a great anatomy teacher, and we were always taught to ask why and to explore, well, how does this fit with this person's body? So from the start, I was like, hang on a minute, heel to heel. What,
Yeah.
that's not going to work for everyone. So I've kind of relaxed, but then there's so much conversation around alignment. And it is important, and it has its important places. But I've kind of relaxed a little bit with that now. And I will say, I will give a suggestion and I will say, you might want to try this. That it doesn't work for everyone, but as a rough guide, this might help you.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, it has been nice to relax a little bit more about that and for it to be a little bit more natural and to realize that our bodies should be able to move in these fluid ways. And yes, a lot of people have become disconnected from that way of moving. And
Mm.
it's about safely getting somebody to explore that. And if you need to keep them safe through alignment initially, that's where you start. And then you say, okay, let's try and move in a different way and not be so rigid here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of wisdom there. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience of the training, and especially in the context of, because obviously as a trained yoga teacher, movement teacher, you already, that was the familiar bit. But I want to ask about your experience around the coaching side. And I know that from the conversations from within your group, there was a lot of stuff about resistance to people calling themselves a coach or even embracing that sense of identity or a role as I'm a coach, I'm somebody who coaches. And it can be really, really challenging. So I'd love to hear what your experience of that was.
Yeah, that was a huge thing, wasn't it? I personally never felt that way about
Mhm.
the word coach. Not that I can remember, did I? It didn't come up for me in the same way. Because
What came up for you? Was it the leader that was more of the
a
kind of
leader was hard for me, being a leader. Yeah, that I've never seen myself as a leader. I think a coach, it's more open, really. Like leader is like somebody that stands at the front and marches on and guides everyone. That's just my follow the leader. And I know that that's not the case. So yeah, I think coach for me is I'm comfortable with that word, and I kind of embraced that from the start, really, of like, oh yeah, I like that, because it is I've lost that train of thought now. I've lost that train of thought.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's okay. So take a moment and just check in. I mean, what was your experience of the training in that context of learning that kind of coaching skills? Because we covered the Soma Psyche Soul coaching model, and that has got those 3 steps, the embrace, embody, and empower, and which is a very holistic way of
Yes.
working, especially working with women. Like we covered a lot of stuff around women trauma and women's physiology and women's life seasons. So very much within the context of women's roles within our society and the history of it as well. I mean, we talk quite a lot about history, that how the women's roles have changed over the years. And so was there anything that kind of stood out for you?
Yeah, the whole course is incredibly juicy. You get a lot in there. I think, yeah, working in that systems thinking, I loved the Soma Psyche and Soul. I love coming back to that, because it's, when you think of somatics, you do think of that first soma and just the body, the nervous system, but actually your mindset is so powerful and so important. and then what you're doing to nourish your soul. And then from there, your life, your family, the connections that you have with your community, that has been really beneficial, just remembering that it's not just a physical thing. There's so much more to it. And how is that, when you're working with someone, how is that going to, what impact is that going to have on everything else, and what do they need to change within that outer circle in their life to be able to make those changes within? That has been very, very useful. And there's a lot that I still need to go back over as well, but things will keep coming up and I will dip in, and it's like just taking little bites.
Yeah.
Because you learn it all and you go, whoa,
Yeah.
that was a lot. But then it's coming back to the things that your clients that are coming up in sessions, and just having those little bites.
And I'm sure there are different things. I mean, as you said, the course is quite juicy. There is so much stuff in there. And there are certain things I know that each one of us is drawn to slightly different things. Like I know some of you from your cohort were drawn to archetypes, and others weren't so sure about archetypes, and working with with the light and the shadow sides of archetypes. Some of you really liked stuff around the relationships and the power dynamics, and some of you like the seasons models and women's of life seasons models. Some really resonated with embodied feminine leadership. Others struggled a little bit with that. And I think that's the beauty of a course like that it's, there are so many different things, and some land really easily, some we resonate with, and some we leave it for a little bit later to come back to. Yeah.
We don't have to do it all as well. And that's something
Completely.
I'm still trying to embody myself, because you want to be able to do it all, and it's not possible. And that is something that the course has taught me as well. It's to keep checking in, to keep doing the practice myself, because that's going to make the biggest impact for me to then be able to support my clients. And I think
Definitely.
thing that I loved is that, first and foremost, you encouraged us to put our needs first, and you thought about the timings, the seasons, how that was impacting us, but you still encouraged us to show up even when things were really tough, but to do it in a way that worked for us as well. And that's so important, because that's so different to any training that I've ever been on. And to actually have space to talk about it and to cry. I'm a crier.
Well, there is a space for all of us, for however we are in that moment, because the spaces that are just positivity spaces don't really work. They kind of exclude half of you. And that's not healing. And you can't grow in that kind of way. So if I ask you, what was the thing that you loved the most? It might be something that you already mentioned. It might be, something else. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. I mean, as I just said that, I was like, oh, that's what I loved about the course. I think the support and the community, because the content is incredible. Like, I saw every module, I was like, yes, 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 I want to know about that. I want to know about that. So the content was all fantastic. And that's why I signed up. One of the other reasons I signed up. But I think the support and the community that was created from the start is really helpful when you're doing something like this, when you are doing work that is vulnerable.
Mm.
It's not just about how can you hold space for other people. You're doing your own stuff, your own work as well. And we all had different experiences, but we all were there for each other. And
Mm.
from the course, I've created these friendships outside of that, and I can speak with them and we can chat to each other and we can get in touch with each other if we're struggling or if we just want to say hi or if things are going well, you know, it's that support afterwards that I've really benefited from.
Lovely. I love that. So, Sophie, if you can say where people can find more about your work, because I think this is really important. I know that you are working with people one-to-one. I know that you are doing stuff that brings together somatics and yoga and art, and you're doing it in person but also online. I know that you've done some art and somatics workshops, and they were very, very well received. So if you could say where people can find more about your work, if they want to connect, if they want to join in doing something.
Yeah. So my website is Sophie Rey Yoga, and that's REY yoga.co.uk. I do need to change that at some point, but slow steps,
Yeah.
slow and steady. I've got an Instagram, which is Sophie Rey Yoga _art, and Facebook page, which is Sophie Rey Yoga. And
Lovely.
all my stuff is on my website. And yeah, reach out.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Sophie, for joining me today in this conversation and sharing your experience about the training.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.